Welcome to Can, the marketing podcast. I'm Ben from Human Digital, the B2B marketing agency.
And I'm Steph from Q Marketing, making brands shine since ages ago.
This week, we're talking about marketing agencies with our special guest, Kathleen Gunther.
Kathleen's an expert at doing the thing that agencies aren't, telling their story.
Remember, we release a new episode every week, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. We made it, Steph. How's your day going?
Oh, not too bad, Ben. It's been a hell of a week. I've been sick all week, as you can tell from my voice.
You're sounding a bit croaky.
Yeah, I know.
A little bit Kermity. Are you doing all right?
I've caught plane germs. I sat on a flight from LA for 13 hours, and I've been man down for the rest of the week. So now you've got this sort of a different persona today.
Yeah, this is Pack a Day, Steph, everyone.
It certainly is. What's been happening in your world, Ben?
Well, I've done a bit of travel. It's actually been a couple of weeks since we've done a record. So we had the B2B marketing conference live, and then Steph hopped over to the US. So over the last couple of weeks, I was in Sydney for the Mumbrella CommsCon, which is communications conference.
Okay.
And that was brilliant. It was a full day in Sydney at the casino, and there were a lot of really good talks. I haven't been to a communications conference before, but it was such a good use of time. I met some amazing people, some people that I've worked with in the past and some new ones. Probably the highlight was a session with MYOB. They were talking about B2B, and they were talking about a lot of the work they did on a new product called Solo, which is a version of MYOB for sole traders, essentially. And they had a full 4 to 6 Ps. Like, this was a full marketing execution that they did that involved product development, research, and an amazing campaign. Chef's kiss. They did such a good job. It was amazing to see them present on stage. And hopefully we might try and get them on the pod at some point as well.
Brilliant.
And
sounds great.
Then I flew from Sydney to Wellington to Cuba Dupa, which is one of my favorite New Zealand music festivals, and it delivered, and the weather was great, and I had an amazing time. I discovered a new band called Mia Nina, and amazing voice. I love discovering new stuff. Like, as much as I love the big headliners like Charlie and everyone, it's so amazing to discover a new startup indie band. Brilliant.
And live music is the way to do that, right? Like, it's not until you turn up there and you hear it and you have that full experience. It's the best way to discover a new band, band,
yes,
I should say.
Exactly. And Wellington, I call Wellington the Melbourne of New Zealand. It very much is cool. The culture, people dress up. I was very impressed. So if you haven't been to Cuba Dupa yet, put it on your list for next year. It is a free festival. You don't have to pay. Obviously, you just pay for your hotel. But amazing weekend. Highly recommended. How was the US? You were there for 10 days?
Speaking of dressing up, I spent 10 days in the US. Most of that was for a pet expo in Orlando.
Okay.
Oh,
okay.
wow. So I've never seen so many dogs and prams.
Oh, my God.
Not only with the dogs and prams, the prams were decorated with their Instagram handles and they had outfits on.
So, because these pet influencers, right?
Oh.
You can't go anywhere today to any event without being swarmed with influencers. So you're saying you were swarmed by pet influencers?
Oh my gosh. They were coming up to the stand going, oh my God, love your stand. And they knew nothing about the product. And they were just literally wanting free product. And one of the premises of the brand that I work with is that there's a whole campaign around your animal looks like you. Right. I'm not kidding you. That was very true in Orlando.
Oh my God. Was it Best in Show? You had some Best in Show moments?
It was. I've not seen the movie, but somebody has recommended that I watch it.
Oh my God. It is a cult classic. If you like Schitt's Creek, you must watch Best in Show. It is It is amazing.
I will add that to my list this week. So yeah, interestingly, so yeah, I spent a lot of time looking at retail in the States, and that was actually my part of what I was there for, was to understand the grocery market. And what an experience when you go into a different country and you don't know the brands and you're looking at it with a completely different lens. Super interesting. We went to Sprouts, Whole Foods, Publix, Kroger's.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
we went everywhere, and so yeah, I've got a lot of pictures of pet food. I've got a lot,
Yes,
yeah,
and the stand looked amazing. It was all yellow. I was so
yeah.
impressed.
It was
Yeah.
really cool, and then I've got a lot of pictures of products, and so much protein, everything. Anyway, it was incredible.
Protein,
Yeah,
yeah, we like that.
I mean
Protein
that.
is where it's at.
Yeah. Okay, so let's hit the news this week. What have we got? I've got a couple of things this week, Ben, but let's hear yours first.
Yeah, so it was April Fool's Day, and I'm over it.
Oh,
It's so cringe, and yes, I think brands do use it to have a moment and to have a bit of sense of humor. Am I just getting cynical? Has your
no,
cynic rubbed off on me, Steph? I just thought, yeah, there was a lot of Marmite, so Bunnings did
I
this
never
kind of
saw
like
the I
Marmite
didn't see the
bucket thing.
Marmite. Why? What? Oh,
Yeah,
really?
and then IKEA was doing all of this meatball stuff, so they had, like, a meatball Chubba Chup and stuff, and I was just like, it's just a bit sad. G
I
Yeah.
I couldn't agree with you more. And funnily enough, I was with my intern today, and she was, and she's 20, and she's
Mm,
like, we need to talk about how bad the April Fools things were. And so
awful.
the only good one I saw that I thought was interesting. Have you seen the Jetstar one?
Yes, yes, I did post that where you had to cycle your on in your seat.
I mean, that made me LOL. So
That
I
was
got,
good.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and I mean, the video they produced was so obviously AI, and they fully leaned into it, and, yeah, I that was good, but even still, I think the whole April Fools is very cringe.
So overdone. Um,
Don't do it. What's happening in
in my
news? What
news.
what news items do you have?
So the most exciting thing. So did you hear about the 12-ton heist of Kit Kat?
Yes, I did. That was great news.
Yeah, but what's even better about it is everyone has jumped on it and absolutely done all these fake press releases. Domino's have got involved, going, we've got a Kit Kat flavored pizza. No, it wasn't us.
Yeah.
Like, they've actually gone it. Like, so many companies have jumped on it and just had
Mhm.
a laugh. Like, we've just come back from our corporate retreat in Italy. Nothing to see here. Unis have gotten involved. You name it.
Oh,
And I just think I think it's brilliant. Like, everyone loves a bloody good Kit Kat story anyway, but I mean, this, we've talked about this before, but the ability to just jump on a news article and put a brand twist on it, I think is awesome. That overrides all the terrible April Fools, I think.
yeah, agreed.
And then just one other piece of news from my side. We had the Axis Awards happening last week. No surprises. You and I talked a lot about motion sickness on this show. They won Agency of the Year, and I think fair
Mhm.
play. Fair play.
Very good.
If I was Sam,
Amazing.
I'd be having a few bottles of champagne right now. Uh,
Brilliant. They've done so well.
yeah, they really have. And then Hell Pizza's dubious campaign won a silver. So that was,
Yes.
yay,
Congratulations.
super exciting. And then the only other thing I heard about the Access Awards is that once again, and I'm sure you and I've talked about this, there were some categories that didn't get any gold.
Mm. Yeah, and I
So
I I am all for that. If the work isn't up to scratch, don't give the gold. So 100%, I'm here for that. I think it just adds to the credibility of the award. Were there any scams or scandals?
not that I've heard of.
So this week we are talking about marketing agencies. So we've got an amazing guest, Kathleen Gunther, coming to join us. So let's all welcome Kathleen. Kathleen, welcome to Can the Marketing Podcast. We're so lucky to have you. Where are you calling in from today?
I am in Melbourne now today.
Brilliant. So Kathleen, we're so lucky to have you. Can you tell us a bit about yourself, what you've been doing? You've had quite the career so far.
I know. So right now, luckily I'm talking to you guys, and I met you as one of my first clients at Human Digital, and I do marketing for marketing agencies. And I could go along with, a couple of different lines of why, but essentially it's because most of them are fairly shit at it.
Yeah, I
I
would
know.
agree.
Yes. I mean, we love a good story, Kathleen, actually. Do you want to, is there a little bit of background you can give us on how you helped Human Digital? Because that would be a
Oh,
really great place to
yeah.
start.
Well, initially we met at a conference. It was a B2B marketing conference here in Melbourne.
Surprise,
And
surprise.
yeah, and
I
I
love a
met
conference.
yes, yeah. Ben is very good at a conference, being seen and heard, which is also a very good part of marketing. So we
The
can
height helps as well, right? The height makes them stick out in a crowd.
That's very true. So I met Ben and Nick and just introduced myself. They told me where they were from, and I pretty much gave them the same line of like, I help agencies with their marketing because they struggle with it. You know, it's time, it's resource, it's budget, and they are so busy in doing what they do, what I do, which is hold the mirror up and help them be consistent and stay in market and be visible and all those things. But it's very hard for agencies because that's what they're doing for everybody else, and they forget about the most important client, which is themselves. So I think I said that in a couple of lines, maybe a few lines less. And Ben and Nick, I will never forget. They looked at each other and they looked at me and they went, "We need
You're on.
you."
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine it
Yeah,
was immediate. Yeah. And
yeah.
and when I heard that you were coming on the pod today, Kathleen, I thought, what a genius idea! Like it's just
Thank you.
people say niche down, and I think this is, and I don't know if you'd describe it as niching down, but I
I
think
do.
but it's wonderful because it totally makes sense. I can't imagine that any agency owner that I've ever met sitting there going, "Oh no, we're doing a great job of marketing ourselves."
I think that like marketing, especially if you're marketing to marketers, they are the most picky bunch. I mean, marketers are reviewing content, creative strategy day in, day out. And to get their attention and to move the needle with them is super hard because they've seen every trick in the book. They're very critical,
Correct.
and it's also there's a lot of us out there. Like there's a lot of agencies that are fighting for that same business. So it's super competitive.
Yes. Yeah, it is. It's all those things. I think what gets me through is it's the insight. It's just that there is genuinely a need. And as I've met a few different people along the way, because I also feel like I go to the opening of an envelope these days as well.
Same.
Yeah, but I need community. I work with other freelancers and I need my community around me, and I'm a people person. I miss people. So it's a double-edged sword. It can give you energy and it can subtract at the same time. But 9 times out of 10, what sort of cuts through is that insight of that, okay, this is actually genuinely a need in this
Yeah.
industry and what's needed right now, particularly as the rise of the fractional marketer, coming in and out as needed, having a diverse, broad range of skill sets, and having been in agency my whole life. And as someone I met at an event said recently, she said, "You've just got such girl boss energy that that
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I'm listening." And it's just the insight and coming and being on both sides that I thought, well, in my last role, Steph, I was the marketing director of a marketing agency, of a PR and agency. So, and previous roles up until that point had all been roles that I'd been leading a department within an agency to grow the agency. So they'd all been newly created roles.
Yeah,
And that's
right.
actually what took me to New Zealand. So I call myself a born again Kiwi. Uh,
Funny story, Kathleen. I actually, and part of my research for this show, I found a video of you being interviewed at the Ice House 13
Tim
years ago.
Norton.
Yes.
Yeah.
Insel by Dave Insel for Tim Norton. Yeah, with at the Ice House. Oh God, that's
Yeah.
embarrassing.
No, it was
We
great.
love the
It
Ice
was
House.
awesome.
So in terms of the work that you're doing now, you talk about working with agencies and agencies not doing marketing well, not practicing what they preach. I mean, the age-old story is chefs that don't cook, accountants that can't do their own books.
I've got a theory
What
about
is
this. I've got
yeah,
a theory.
what is the problem? What is the theory?
Do you think this is my theory, Kathleen, please tell me if I'm wrong. I have a feeling that agencies tend to think that if they win awards, that's their marketing.
Oh,
It's half. I think it's half of it. I don't think you're
Yeah.
completely wrong, Steph.
do you
What
know
do
what
you
it
think?
is? I think most of it it's just the time that it takes, and there's a little bit of analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
Back to your earlier point, Ben, about it's a tough market, to convince other marketers. And like, but how long? I mean, how do you even say what is marketing? What is digital?
Ah,
There,
you're
there are
opening Pandora's box there.
Yeah, exactly. It's like how long is a piece of string? There is an entire ecosystem, and you can't be all things to all people all the time. So, from an agency perspective, and it probably touches on some of the things that you wanted to talk to me about, Ben, and it might be a good segue into that and the different types of agencies. No
Yeah.
surprises, and it's not rocket science that PR agencies are usually pretty good at PR.
Pretty good. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, web agencies, web design agencies or web, development agencies build great websites or apps. Human digital doing B2B marketing, and they're niche. They're very good at doing B2B. But there's a earned media. There's the community component. There's a whole stack of things that ladder up to what marketing is, and it's not the same for consumer products as it is. Agency does have its own niche,
Yeah.
and it's really through your work, your culture, and then how you show up in community that makes agencies unique. Because ultimately, like B2B, people buy people. They're not
Yeah.
Mm.
necessarily buying your service. They're
And
buying.
that's where, I mean, the awards are definitely one element. I think the other thing that agencies do, especially the smaller or the indie agencies, is they want to be a big agency and they have an idea. And I'm talking from personal experience. You think you can do everything in house, and that's
Yeah.
really not right. Just because you do marketing, it doesn't mean that you have the skills and expertise in house that you need to market yourself. And that is why bringing in external people to help you do your marketing, just like your clients are bringing in externals to do their marketing, I think
Yeah,
it's super important to have experts around you that can help you do your own marketing.
100%. And very much in the same vein as, if you're not great at numbers and at invoicing, why do
You get an
you don't,
accountant. Yeah.
right? You have an ops person. Just because marketing sits under, your title of what you do, or, you should know, but should you? Because it's so many different types of things. And even
Mm,
getting back to what I said about, it's not rocket science that PR agencies are good at PR and et cetera, et cetera. Interestingly, like in my role when I was a full-time marketing director for a marketing agency, we outsourced our PR, and that was
mm,
Yeah.
a digital
Interesting.
agency,
Yeah.
right? I had my digi team internally that was really good at helping me with the website stuff, but we didn't have time, and our guys didn't have the relationships with the trade that the specialists that I work with now have. It is a specialized industry.
mm.
And it feels like you've got to put the right people on the right job. And Um, I wonder if it's harder for agencies to see it sometimes. Like, I wonder if service-based businesses feel like it's harder for them to see the wood for the trees, to say, "I do need to step outside and I need to," like, do you find when you speak t I mean, depending on who you're speaking to, when you're sort of having these initial conversations, is it a hard sell for people, or do they kinda go, "Oh, we think we can do it ourselves?"
It really depends on what the gap is, Steph. So, I mean, I have, like most people with their approach, I have my framework and I have my approach. And from when I first started with Ben to where I've got to now, I've iterated and evolved, and, I have a
Mm.
different approach. But there is still an element of, I just had lunch with an agency here, and they have global offices but independent, and they are, they still struggle on the ground, as well as looking, at that more macro sort of global piece. So it really depends where the gaps are, and it's whether I have the skill sets to fulfill that, or whether I can bring someone else in. I've learnt the hard way, like most freelancers or anyone, if you try and be all things to all people, you say yes to things that you can't do or that you're not as
Mm.
it's not going to work. So I
Yeah.
know I'm not for everybody, but who I am for, it works really, really well, and I can add value and I can show those results.
And I think what's interesting between the three of us, right? We're all business owners, and there's an immense amount of value, whether it's marketing or not, with having someone look at something once you're inside a business, and I think this is true whether you're a business owner or you're working for a company, you don't see things the same way that other people see them. And
Mhm.
so I think it's incredibly valuable to get an outside perspective to go, well, you might think this is how you're turning up and showing up, and this is what your clients are thinking about you. But in actual fact, Kathleen, you would say to, like, actually,
Yeah.
guys, and being that kind of that voice of reason potentially.
Oh, 100%. I mean, that's if I was to narrow down the one thing that I do really, and the thing that I enjoy the most, there's a bit of that creative philosophy of that friction and nurture. So I hold the mirror up and I
Yeah.
hold that mirror up and I
Did,
interrogate.
did when you held that mirror up to Ben, did he just sort of spend some time?
Preening. So, oh yeah, my hair.
Oh, look, we're cut from the same cloth, so I can't comment on that. I can't comment on that.
So, I mean, there is a tendency for agencies to try and solve every problem and try and do all marketing and kind of like anything that walks looks like a client and you try and sell. I mean, I will put my hand up. I'm as guilty as anyone, especially when you are starting out. You're chasing revenue and you're kind of discovering what your niche is. But like, what does strong positioning look like in 2026? What does a good, well-positioned agency look like to you?
One that can back up their claim.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you just simply say, I deliver X impact, or, I don't want to throw anyone under the
Oh,
bus or
or
anything.
some sort of word salady type situation.
Yeah, if it's from the wankonomics, speak, which is
Yeah.
it's a comedy fest is on here at the moment, and there's a sorry, I probably shouldn't swear, should I?
No,
But
no,
that's
you're
No, you
fine.
can say this. This podcast is all about colorful language,
We
so
are an
you can
okay.
swear away.
explicit
We're
podcast.
not
Okay.
for kids.
There's it's the comedy fest here in Melbourne, which is one of the most wonderful times of the year, and there is a show called Wankonomics. So anyway, that's
I'm,
where that came from. But if you've
I'm
got
making
that,
notes.
yeah, bullshit bingo going on with like the we drive X, Y, Z and deliver impact, it, yeah, and you've got to, and if it's overly creative or it's too long or if it's, and if it's all about the manifesto, I think really is it just you're serving people as well as the bots. So
Mm,
Mm,
you've got to also just say what you do.
yeah.
Like we are a communications agency that does X, like so
mm,
things. So, in my opinion, when you try and overcomplicate it or it tries to be too fancy, I think that's where you lose out, and you've just got to back up what your claim is.
mm,
One of the things we've often spoken about on this podcast, Kathleen, is really understanding your customer, and we talk about this time and time again. And the surprising amount of businesses that I'm sure Ben would go into, or that I would go into, and they don't really understand who they're speaking to. Do you think it's the same with agencies, or not? Do they sometimes have a really good understanding of the type of client that they would like?
I think that's a how long is a piece of string. They're all different. Everyone's
Okay.
different. No, sometimes they are. It really depends where they're at on their journey, how long they've been in market for, those sort of things. Because and this comes back down to the data as well. So unless you're actually capturing who they are,
Yeah.
if you're leading on a wing and a prayer, and you've constantly been used to the old environment, which let's face it, even until COVID hit, it probably was it was a thing. Most of us worked on referrals. Um,
mm,
it was like this person said you were good. I'm going to work with you. And that doesn't fly anymore, particularly because of the creator economy, because of the fragmentation, disruption across the board. I mean, there's so many different types of ways to market to people. So there's many different types of agencies, and you have to position yourself in a way that you deliver what you do. And when you do overcomplicate it and try and be all things to all people, that's where it doesn't work. But it does come down to the data. Do you have a set CRM? If not, you don't necessarily have to have one if you're not massive, but you could make sure that you have an email marketing system that is capturing that data for you. I would
mm.
then start to email people, and it doesn't have to be super fancy email. It doesn't have to be like every week. It could be once a quarter. But are you nurturing those contacts across multiple touch points? And do you know
Yeah.
who they are?
I mean, we're talking about. I think there's a breed of agencies that are essentially specialists. It's a lot of digital agencies, a lot of agencies that are doing digital ads or traditional ads. And I think that to the point that they're good at what they do and they don't have the skills in-house to do other forms of media, whether that's organic, so outbound email, or earned media, and they don't bring in those right people. So, you've worked across a number of different types of agencies, earned, owned, paid. Why are agencies under-investing in earned media?
I think it's because they don't understand it. If I'm honest,
Yeah.
PR is unless you've worked in and around with PR in a PR agency, I think it's really hard to understand what it is. You kind of think
Yeah.
you think, oh, it's just what do you mean you don't pay for those spots? Oh, I don't understand. But like you kind of always equate ads with or any sort of communication or thought leadership with paying for it somehow. Pay some sort of
Mm.
play, and that's just across the board. So, and until you understand the talent that goes into the writing, the ongoing relationships with journalists, being like anything from newsjacking and being reactive to being on the front
Mm.
foot and being that thought leader, and it all takes time. So I mean, to be honest, I didn't really understand it until I started working for the PR agency and I was really in it and I could see
Mm.
the these communication specialists worked,
Yeah.
and they are very clever people and make the power of really good copy, because it is something that's always going to set you apart.
Especially in this time of AI slop, right?
Oh my God, stop the slop. So what does good earned media actually look like for an agency?
It means a good earned media means multiple placements. So not
Yeah.
just one press release about a new staff member. Those things are important. Like that keeps the wheels turning and there's a formula. You can't just enter into PR if no one's heard of you. They're not going to like why are we going to listen to you if we don't know who your agency is or who your business is and why you exist. So there's a bit of a formula that you need to adhere to sort of introduce yourself, but then it becomes multiple placements. It becomes opinion pieces that are reactive, so commenting on the news
Yeah.
of the day. So the Super Bowl is on, or there's a new AI tool that's coming out that's changing design. You're a design agency. Do you want to comment on how you use it? And most agencies, interestingly, particularly the ones I talk to, who are all just most of them are indie agent. They're mostly humble, beautiful people, just
Yeah,
trying
who
to.
are doing the thing that they love, right? And probably have to
Mm.
like they've made a decision to whether it's for lifestyle or for other reasons, but it's you
Definitely
probably
not for lifestyle. They might have started for lifestyle, but
yeah, yeah,
it's not
They are.
sexy.
Yeah, they're there to deliver good work for good people. And look,
Exactly.
there's no there's no argument that it is hard work, agencies and cutting through and the work that they do. But there are worse places, there are worse industries to be in.
Always, always.
You know?
yeah,
Marketing, I'm a firm believer, and I'm very biased, that the marketing industry is the best industry in the world.
Yeah, I
100%.
agree. I
Yeah,
Yeah,
agree
but we're
too.
we're all working in it. I mean, I love the mix of creativity, the diversity of the people that work in it. We're glass half full people usually. We're looking at solving problems. Yeah, it's an amazing place.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of these indie agencies don't have massive budgets.
Mm,
W-
what do
Where
they
where would
do?
where does a small agency start if they don't have a big budget?
that is a great question. They start with their strategy always.
Yeah,
You can't have a plan. There's no point in creating a content calendar if you don't know what your content pillars
why?
are.
Oh,
Mhm.
Kathleen, you are speaking. You are preaching to the converted. Well, it's.
We're
I feel
having this
like
conversation exactly for canned at the moment.
Oh,
So,
are
yeah,
you? Right. Oh,
yeah,
well,
yeah,
maybe you need to look me up. I'm in
yeah.
Melbourne.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we're new to media production, right? So we've like business owners, but it's a different thing from an audience perspective. But yes, so always start with a strategy. I love that, Kathleen.
Always start with a strategy, right? And 9 times out of 10, you can do it yourself, but you need a bit of a push along.
Yeah,
Claim to be a brand strategist. There are people who've gone and spent far longer than I have at university to do that job. But I don't think agencies need a hard out brand strategist to
Mm.
help them interrogate their brand positioning. They know who
They
they
need
are.
execution. They need someone to hold them accountable.
To hold them accountable, that's correct. But I still do a workshop with them, which is like usually 2-hour workshops I get some help from a brand strategist, a good friend of mine, shout out, you know who you are if you're listening, who sort of helps me ask the right questions
Yeah.
of agencies to then help land on those content pillars. Now, they're not 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 like there is in social strategy or in cross pay. We're literally talking about 3 to 4 content pillars that you keep showing up
Keep it simple.
the same
Mm.
way, ladder up to those 3 things, the work first and foremost. And sometimes it isn't first and foremost because if you're a media agency that you can't always talk about all the things that you're doing,
Yeah.
sometimes you can't. So, you've got to then lean on, is it the culture or is it how you show up in the community? How do you give back? And that could be whether giving back to the industry itself or to something that aligns with your values, but you're going to attract the right clients if you do that. So strategy is the very first most important thing, and then it's then just understanding the gaps of what you don't have, and then having someone like me or an internal marketer to then make that accountable and ongoing. But if you don't have that strategy at the beginning and have those content pillars established and know what your competitors are doing and
Mm.
Yeah.
there's the white space, like you need to keep across all of that, then you can execute. But that if you just bring in a junior who's really good at TikTok and great, and lots of them are, like I'm not, so great, get someone that is, or just really good at doing design quickly and spitting stuff out, which there's like, Lila, shout out, she is now the head of an agency, head of the marketing department agency, and she is a graphic designer as well as, a strategic lead. So she's fantastic.
Wow.
You
That's
don't get
brilliant.
Yeah.
as many of them out there, but, she can turn stuff around. But unless she had really good guidance from her leaders and her owners and her founders, you don't have, you don't have you don't know where you're going. So you can't
Yeah.
always get a junior in to execute stuff unless they know what the plan is.
And
Exactly.
it's a long-term play too, right? Like once you've got the strategy, it's marketing yourself as an agency. Sometimes, and again, it's B2B, so sometimes these lead times are quite long. Like it's building trust over time and
Mm.
consistently showing that this is the kind of work that you do, this is the kind of thing that you stand for. And I imagine it can take quite a long time. That pipeline itself could be 12 months, ongoing
Correct.
because people don't necessarily change agencies that quickly either. So it's all that work that's going into just sort of being in the vicinity and people have heard of you and that the name is familiar. So when the time comes that they actually have a project or a need to build a new website or whatever, that you are kind of in the conversation.
That you're front of mind. Yeah, I mean, we all know about the touch points and, the 4 Ps and all those things that, that are marketing staples, or are they, because everything's changed these
Oh,
days?
I think
Mm.
Ben said there were 6 Ps the other day.
There
Yeah,
you
So
go.
there's 6 Ps. But if anyone listening needs a refresher, we recently did the Ps of marketing. So do look in the back catalogue.
Okay.
And so when we're talking about what makes agencies unique, we've talked about the work, we've talked about their strategy and their focus. But I think one of the real key things that makes agencies unique is the people. And we touched on it just briefly, Ben,
Yes.
talking about, the intern or the new grad that does TikTok. But this is really where I think agencies forget that a lot of what makes them unique is who they are, who the founder is, who
yeah.
the core team is. And this is also where, diversity and inclusion comes in. But tell us about, leaning into who you are as an agency.
So that is probably in 2026, your personal brand is the most important thing as a leader of the agency. So without sounding
Oh,
sycophantic, Ben is the guy, right? Ben's doing that really, really well.
yep.
Um, you have to have a leader who's out and about and meeting people, and it's not about drumming up sales, it's just being part of the industry. It's being available, it's showing up
Yeah.
and understanding what the latest trends are, what the insights are, creating a podcast with another legend like you, Steph, to actually add value back to
Or
the
give back.
community and give back,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
That is that that sort of that part of that how you show up in the community, and your leaders need to be doing that. I've seen time and time again as agencies get bigger and they grow, their leaders end up in a office in the box, a
Yeah.
little bit, and in the corner office doing the operational things or whatever it is, the things that leaders do. Or can do, but I think being out and about, I literally had the same conversation earlier today. Being out and about and being a leader is very important. As important it is to show up at the certain important things that you have with your clients. So if it's a boarding or launching or just a check-in, the quarterly check-ins with your clients, how are you going? Don't just pass that on, to the juniors, to or the whether it's your senior strategist, whatever. You still have to be involved in the business and understand what's going on.
And I think particularly in the smaller the agency, the more likely it is that someone's going to want to work for the founder. They'll know who the founder is, and that leader will be really important. And when it becomes layers and layers and layers, that's probably less important. In the agency world, because my background obviously is not agency. I've never worked in an agency. It's always been client side. And the industry itself is relatively small, and you definitely hear of the bad, like the colourful characters in agency world that people don't want to work for or are known to be tyrants.
Correct. Yes, you do. But,
Yeah.
that is, I mean, look, it's a pretty tricky world out there at the moment, and DEI is being rolled back left, right, and center in many places. But even just looking at the merger with Omnicom and IPG,
Yeah.
lately, there's a lot of women at the helm in the CEO roles across the media side of things. I know from my time in NZ with you guys, you've got like Nikki Grafton, who's the CEO of Omnicom over there, and other sort of women. So I do feel that there it is still evolving, because we're a progressive industry in general. Like this is what we do. We change behavior. This is our job. So I do
Yeah.
feel like we're in a bit of a bubble in that sense. But where I still see things lacking is from the multicultural side of things.
Oh,
So
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So where our, and look, in Australia, Australia's got no leg to stand on when has come to the way we've, colonized and evolved with our First Nations people. So we're talking like 3% of the population, but there are leaders within that community that just don't still have a voice in our industry.
Yeah, and look, where there's very few examples, I think, in New Zealand of what you would call a truly diverse or specific agency. There's one that in New Zealand run Aotearoa. I don't know if you've heard of them, Kathleen, but they specialise in Indigenous marketing, and they've won several
Right.
awards. Laura, I think, is on the board of the EMA, the Marketing Association here, and so really wonderful, because that if you talk about positioning, they have very much anchored themselves and it shouldn't be this way, but I suppose that's their heritage and that is their area of expertise. But they've anchored themselves in doing Indigenous, supporting Indigenous clients, and it's excellent work, and they call themselves a cultural design and advertising agency. So, and sometimes I wonder if agencies feel like they don't have the right sometimes, or they don't have the right expertise in house to get it right. There can be a sense of nervousness around that.
And that's where partnering really comes in. As an indie, you don't have to do it all. And I've seen, and we have some beautiful relationships with other agencies where you work together and complement each other. And I think, that kind of network is where indies really come into their own.
Yes, definitely. And it, I think partnerships are probably the other way that they show up. And that's when you are, the agents, because you can't be there. It takes a village for everything. It takes a village to raise children. It takes a village to bring these campaigns to life. But it very much is a village, and you can't have every single bit of expertise in the current 2026 fragmentation of what it is expected to
Oh,
deliver.
and I'd be very wary of anyone who was promising that. Absolutely not.
Yes,
That would be an absolute red flag to watch out
yes.
for.
So what would you say to the agency owner? They're doing all the right things. They've got a PR company, they've got a strategy, they've niched down, they're doing all of those things, but they're not growing. Like that, it's one thing to be doing the things, but what's your advice to agencies to like bring the revenue in like that? Because that's essentially what that agency owner wants. What's your advice there?
That's a very big question. The one thing, I don't know if there is necessarily one thing. It really depends who you are. But I think you have to, I know you have to back up your marketing with your sales. So you actually literally have to pick up the phone
Yeah.
and have
Yeah.
conversations with people. How are you doing? Where are you? Where are you at? Is this, and you can't rely on, if something that you've been doing in the past isn't working, you need to pivot and you need to
Yeah.
change.
Yeah, it's not a hope and a dream just because there was an article about you in Stop Press 3 months ago that's gonna generate work, right? Like, I think it's putting yourself in the driver's seat a little bit, and particularly that Ben and I have often talked, we're really excited about the rise of indie agencies, and we think it's amazing. I think it's really good for clients, and it's great for diversity, but also the way that, the market's going currently, it's hard. Like, it's harder for small businesses, and so I do have it's a personal belief of mine too, that you have to put yourself in the driver's seat. Things just aren't gonna come to you
That's right.
you know?
I mean, we can't talk about marketing and we can't talk about life these days without AI. What is your take on AI? How do you feel about it? How should agencies be using it? Should
Okay.
they be using it for their PR?
So I think everyone should be using it, because if you're not, you're left behind. And
Mm,
yes, you should be using it for your PR, but to check things and to help run some ideas past, or ask you questions. I am not an AI specialist by any way, shape, or form. I don't claim to be, and I'm not a futurist. I'm a presentist.
Nice, love.
I'm someone that lives in the present with an eye on the future. So
mm,
I very much use AI to help me build out some frameworks. It's all my thinking. It's all previous work that I've done before AI came along that I use to help me map things out. There are certain agents that can work better for others, and if you build something up from scratch for yourself, that's probably the best place to go, as opposed to just constantly arguing with it and trying to get it to where you need to get to. But it's exciting. Look, if I'm honest, I really I like, as much as it terrifies me and it's taking jobs left, right, and center, and I am genuinely worried about our future of juniors, of
mm,
people
Yeah,
coming through the industry, and roles that they had previously, we've been relying on them in the past to do. Now, a machine can do it. In saying that, things are just shifting. They've always shifted. When we went from
yeah,
print media to digital, when it went from photography to digital, everything's always evolving. So I think there's definitely, I still feel it's going to plateau, and there's going to be maybe don't hold me to account on that, but there is going to be, there needs to be a human element
yeah.
consistently. Even if
And
it's a driverless car, it needs a human element to say, "Oh, I need to get from A to B."
as an agency expert, Kathleen, who do you think's got the advantage, the indies or the big guys?
I think that the indies have the
Yeah,
advantage. In saying that, if you've got the money and you can invest in somebody, like there's an agency here called Time Under Tension, Tim O'Neill, massive shout out, the ex Accenture guys that opened up, and sort of before it was a big thing, or it was always been a big thing, but ahead of the curve, an
yeah,
AI specific agency looking at LLMs, looking at how different industry uses it and how they can streamline and create efficiencies, etc. So if you can afford to have a strategy session with Tim and his team that can go through all of your processes, operations, and efficiencies, you are going to be one step ahead. But that's not a 5 grand, sort
no.
of investment. You are looking at a significant, I don't know what that is, but it's a significant investment into it. But if you're a big enough organization and you can afford to do that, that's what you should be doing.
It's an interesting one, right? Because the bigger the company, and whether it's an agency or not, typically in the last 12 months, they've been slower to uptake AI.
mm.
Because it hasn't worked for them, but I can almost sense that there might be a shift in that space because they're being forced into it. They've got to now adopt it, and you're right, they've got more money to invest now. So once that switch has been flipped, so to
A
speak,
switch
they
is,
can,
yeah.
yeah,
So I'm going to flip the table. We've been talking a lot to indie agency owners in this episode, but we do have a lot of in-house marketers that listen to the show. So the question is, if I was an in-house marketer looking for a new agency, what should I be doing to make the right choice of agency partner, whether that's an indie or whether that's, one of the bigger group agencies? What would your advice be to that person looking for a new agency?
Definitely. No, that's a really good question, Ben. I would get them to do as much research they can across the ecosystem. So to start with, to see how the founders or the agency is showing up, and look at their case studies, look at their previous work. Is it aligning? Their values aligning? Do they show up in the same places that you do? If they've worked with your competitors, could be a good chance to to look at them, right? And have they been successful, and what have they done? And you never want it to completely emulate what your competitors are doing. But, there are, you just need to do your research. You need to look up and see, what is their opinion? How are they expressing that? And also ask them the questions once you do get in contact with them, once they pitch with you, because you can have the best ideas in the world, particularly on that creative side of your creative agency, but it's that chemistry, and creative agencies call them chemistry sessions for a reason. Like, is there a chemistry that's going on here? It's so important. And do they have a level of diversity is what I'd be looking for.
Mm-hmm.
They have a level of diversity across their
And
team.
that's not just diversity in terms of, cultural backgrounds. It's diversity of thought, diversity of education, life experience.
Correct. Yeah. Are they showing up in the same way and working in a collaborative way across the team, that everyone gets a voice? There's an analogy I give of, I will judge you if you treat the wait staff badly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like if I go out to dinner or lunch with somebody and they're rude to the wait staff or the Uber driver or the whatever, I'm like, ooh, ick. That's not a person that I want to work with. Whatever your level of what's right for you, you've got to see how they speak to the rest of the team, because I've seen it and I've worked in it where big dick swinging strategist comes along, and they take over and they come up with all this beautiful, smart language and, kind of bamboozle everybody. Everyone's kind of just sitting there, like all the women are sitting around the table going, I feel like shit because this guy's, do you have that guy? If you have that guy, maybe don't work with those people, Look for where everyone has a voice at the table. And when they ask the most junior person in that chemistry session or tissue session or whatever you're going to call it, what do you think? And I would ask the founder that, like, who will I be working with day to day? And for a clear set of deliverables on any retainer and output.
Yeah. That's brilliant.
It's wonderful advice.
So, Kathleen, thank you so much for coming on. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
They can contact me at guntherconsulting.com. Fill in my form, tell me what sort of, so I can capture you and find you again. Or you can literally just email me on Kathleen@guntherconsulting.com.
So, and we'll put a link in the show notes as well. But thank you so much, Kathleen. It was a real pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate your time, guys, and glad to be on this side of it as opposed to just watching.
Yes. Wonderful. See you soon.
Thank you.
Can the Marketing Podcast is brought to you by Human Digital and Q Marketing. Our editor is Bruna Barbosa. New episodes drop weekly, so tell your friends and colleagues.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you follow and subscribe to Canned wherever you listen. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and if you want the full visual experience, check us out on YouTube.
See you next week.